Hello, my name is Mark Steffen. I am a student analyst and currently a student at FIU. We have a project, which is Brittany, Mark Steffen, and our third participant who's not with us. Our project was increasing water consumption. And now I'll let our second participant introduce themselves.
Hi, I'm Brittany Campos. I am a senior at FIU and I am an RBT.
All right. So to get started, let's see, there we go. We had to first identify the problem. And the problem, based on our title, obviously, is increasing water consumption, which was unanimously agreed by all three participants. Because, well, there's a lot of importance, a lot of social and critical significance to increasing water intake, such as hydration. Sometimes water is called the elixir of life because it is. It's important for overall health. It helps lower fatigue and risks associated with fatigue, such as maybe cognitive function. It increases cognitive function and potential health complications. When we drink more water, we are more healthy. So addressing all of this with evidence-based practices will increase well-being, which again makes it a socially significant behavior to target. And we do target it throughout this project.
And it improves the quality of life.
Yes, it does.
There were ethical considerations. So, potential barriers to treatment and ethical concerns for increasing water consumption include individual resistance, environmental factors, social influences, resource constraints, and ethical considerations like consent and confidentiality. Overcoming these requires careful planning, individualized strategies, and ongoing monitoring to maintain effectiveness and uphold ethical standards.
There we go.
In our study, ethical considerations regarding the increase in water consumption to 100 ounces per day are paramount. So we had to assess the potential risks, particularly concerning any underlying health conditions amongst the three of us. So, such an increase in water could potentially lead to health issues, and one of them being hyponatremia, which is low sodium levels. So, it's very important for each one of us throughout this process to make sure that we were mindful of our health and how we felt, and to halt any part of the experiment if we suspected any adverse effects. So, to prevent ethical situations, we were able to implement mini check-ins with each other to make sure we were all okay. And if there was any part of us feeling uncomfortable, we would have gone ahead and halted everything to make sure that we provided any necessary um, medical assistance if needed. Thankfully, we didn't have to. We were all okay as we were taking in our water.
Exactly. Thank you, Brittany. So our next slide talks about the research articles that we had revised and adapted into our intervention plan. The first one is by authors Smith, Johnson, and Garcia, titled Brief Experimental Evaluation of Non-Removal of the Cup to Increase Water Consumption. So in this article, they looked at effects of non-removal of the cup in a child with autism who had not just autism, but also a feeding disorder. So they used this NRC, they combined it with NCR, which is non-contingent reinforcement, to increase the water consumption on the child with autism and feeding disorder. So this child, Marshall, had not just autism as discussed, but multiple diagnoses. So the intervention plan utilized a multiple element design to track trial by trial observations, reporting a mean of about 95 to 96 for the inter-observer agreement. So the results were positive because it shows that NRC combined with NCR increased water consumption in Marshall, and it also decreased challenging behaviors around mealtime. So these findings show an implication and also a positive correlation for overall health outcomes in children with autism and feeding disorders when these implementations are being utilized. However, there are also considerations, as always, with articles such as client diversity, feasibility, generalization, ethical concerns, collaboration with professionals, and parent and caregiver involvement. So these would need to be assessed in interest before any kind of broader application of this summary article. We'll go to our second one.
For the second article, the authors were Patel, Piazza, Oshner, and Santana. And the name of the article was Using a Feeding Procedure to Increase Fluid Consumption in a Child with Feeding Problems. So, this article addressed fluid refusal in a child with feeding disorders, and the intervention a feeding procedure involves a feeding procedure combined with reinforcement to enhance the consumption of fluid. So, the participant, who was Ray, a 6-year-old with pervasive developmental disorder, showed an increased mouth cleanliness, which indicated successful consumption of the fluids. The intra-observer agreement was high, and the results suggest potential applicability in similar settings. As always, you have to have caution when generalizing these findings in broader populations because what might work for one child might not work for the other.
Exactly. Good points, Brittany. And our third article is by Feliciano, LeBlanc, and Feeney is titled Assessment and Management of Barriers to Fluid Intake in Community Dwelling of Older Adults. So this article it shed a light on our target behavior, but it also dealt with people who had more autonomy, which were the older adults. But it also worked because the participants, Rhonda and Davis, showed a significant improvement in their healthy fluid consumptions after receiving individualized intervention packages. So the data collection was utilized in multiple baseline design with high inter-observer agreement and validation. So it showed that these two adults, Rhonda and David, had increased healthy liquid consumptions while decreasing their unhealthy liquids. So this really showed the effectiveness of antecedent manipulation. So these findings are obviously very much socially significant because it's going to promote health among older adults. But as also with all research articles, replications would need careful consideration of individual factors.
So, this is a summary of functional behavior assessment. The rationale for our intervention involved conducting a functional assessment through direct observation using ABC data. This aimed to understand the antecedents, behaviors, and consequences related to all of us who had lower water consumption, and we had to develop an effective intervention plan. So, baseline data did show that we were taking in minimal water consumption. There you are, taking in your water.
Yep.
Primarily preferring other drinks over water and infrequent water intake prompted by physical activity and other conditions. The target behavior to increase water consumption was to promote hydration and overall health for all of us. Interventions will provide access to water throughout the day, pair water with preferred activities and foods, and implement reinforcement strategies. Like I did. Good job, Mark, for taking
Thank
in your
you.
water.
I'm all
Um,
happy.
yeah. Ongoing data collection will monitor progress and guide adjustments to maximize effectiveness while considering ethical considerations and participant preferences.
Thank you. So the next two slides will focus on the tools that we use. So the first one, as you can see, is the FAST, the Functional Analysis Screening Tool. And you can see the questions that were asked and how we got to the functions of certain behaviors. And the second one is ABC data forms, which showed the antecedent, the behavior, and the consequences. Therefore, we can provide a correlation between the consequences and the behavior and how that can affect one another. And our next slide shows our summary of treatment, and it's accompanied by an adorable GIF picked out by Brittany. So the treatment package had several components to address the behavior, which was increasing water intake for all of us. So the first one is antecedent manipulation, which using visible reminders, which for me was notes and also like the writings on my water bottle, which it's being washed right now. I don't have it, but it had little motivational notes. So those reminders very much helped me. And also placing the water bottle in easily accessible locations, which for me was I took it everywhere I went, to the gym, to work, and even if I went to religious meetings, that water bottle would be with me. And scheduling water breaks. So for my personal experience, I used reminders using my phone, which would beep every so often, which would signal that I needed to take a break to drink water. And all of that helped to prompt water intake throughout the day. So these strategies were definitely helpful, not just for me, but for all the participants to increase the salience of water, and it did establish a routine for hydration.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think this presentation itself prompted you to drink water.
Yes, it did. It really did. So the next one is summary of treatment. And again, a very adorable gift. This is my favorite one. Look at that dog. Look at that.
Good.
So as we all know, when we're using behavior analysis, the most potent sort of thing that affects behavior is reinforcement. And the best one is positive reinforcement. So we did include that, such as verbal praise, such as Brittany praising me for drinking water, which, I like that. Access to preferred activities to increase the likelihood of future water consumption. And the strategy was obviously chosen because it would and has strengthened the association between drinking water and positive outcomes.
For me, drinking water, I gave myself a piece of gum after. That was my preferred activity, just popping the gum and eating it.
It worked.
Had access to a tangible and the preferred activity of just. All right, so here's our summary of treatment package. As a reduction intervention, individuals will receive response costs if they chose sugary or caffeinated beverages over water, temporarily losing access to the preferred items or privileges. That's me right there. Seriously, no coffee? This reduction strategy aims to make water more favorable compared to competing beverages, thereby increasing the likelihood of its consumption. Overall, the treatment package integrates antecedent manipulations, reinforcement procedures, and reduction interventions to promote the adoption of healthy water consumption habits among all participants. And really, that's me because I love coffee and I love green tea. So that was a big one. That was my response cost. That was goodbye. No coffee for you today.
All right. So now we're looking at our graph, which is the baseline intervention graph. So as we can clearly see here, when we first started, we all had low water consumption. Some were at 60, some were a bit higher than that, but it fluctuated during the baseline phase, as most behaviors will. However, once we implemented the intervention, we can see a clear increase in the trend line, an upward trend, with all three participants increasing their water consumption. And we see here that behavior maintained even after the intervention. And we can see it even kept going up, which I was very shocked. Because at times I would even drink 100 ounces, like the whole water bottle, like the whole gallon jug, which I was shocked. But it does show that the intervention did work. So overall, the data indicates a promising trend towards increased water consumption following the implementation of the intervention.
And here we have our results and conclusion. So, the results of our intervention indicate a positive response from the participants regarding increased water consumption, as you saw in the graph. The implementation of reminders and schedule revisions led to a notable improvement, as stated by Mark, and as evidenced by the graph itself. So, despite the positive outcomes, there were several barriers to intervention that were identified, including individual variability in adherence to the intervention plan, which it's hard. Sometimes there's work and school and everything, so that kind of um, varies how much water you take, and environmental factors such as accessibility to the water sources. I know that when I'm working, my two clients, one after another, it's hard to get that water in. Additionally, resistance to behavior change and external influences may have impacted the effectiveness of the intervention. And despite these challenges, the overall results suggested progress towards the intervention goals. Yay! And highlight the importance of ongoing monitoring and adaptation to address barriers effectively.
Exactly. So our next slide focuses on the generalization plan and what strategies that we may have, which the strategies that worked for us and we believe would work for people like us, such as college students with very busy schedules, whether or not you have kids, whether or not you're working a full-time job or not, these strategies will help you. And the first one is getting a portable water container. So that's very helpful in getting a big old jug with maybe some written reminders throughout the day also. Maybe the reminder's on the bottle, or maybe the reminder is through your phone, just letting you know to drink water. Additionally, what also would help is getting social support and encouragement from maybe your spouse, your friends, your family and colleagues. They would they would be happy to help you reinforce that behavior, and they would even remind you to if they see you drinking soda or green tea or
My
brisk
daughter
for
helped
me.
me.
Yeah, I'll be like, "What are you doing? You shouldn't be drinking that." So that would definitely help when you get everyone involved. So, and also incorporating reminders and cues to drink it in various settings, therefore would promote generalization. And ongoing reinforcement and monitoring of the water intake would in diverse contexts would help the maintenance process of the behavior even after the intervention period. And the next slide will delve into maintenance.
Yes. So, this is our maintenance plan. Each one of us are going to utilize self monitoring tools such as hydration tracking apps, journals, or like the water bottle, which is super accessible. You can have it wherever you go, like Mark said, and it gives you that visual prompt that you need. It's going to help you maintain awareness and accountability post intervention. Social support, as Mark stated, family, friends, peers, like let them know what you're doing, so you can keep and maybe you'll bring someone on to increasing their water consumption as well. Um, it's going to provide the ongoing encouragement that you need and motivation, while environmental modifications like ensuring the easy access to it, it's going to help facilitate sustained behavior change. So periodic check-ins, which I'm going to be checking up on you, Mark, with a behavior analyst or support team, will offer opportunities to review progress, address challenges, and make adjustments to the maintenance plan as needed, aiming to solidify the habit of increased water consumption for long-term adherence.
All right. And the next slide is the references that we use for the article stated. So this was our project, had an increased water consumption. We showed the baseline, which we were all at, decrease. Oh, Brittany's drinking water, so I gotta drink some water too. Okay, there we go.
Cheers.
Okay. Yeah. Which showed this was the before. This is what the baseline is before the intervention. We saw the increased intervention and we saw methods to the maintenance method after the intervention, which was to and the biggest one for me was reminders, visual reminders. So we thoroughly
Yes.
believe that this will work for not just us, but also people in the same situations. So that's our
Yes.
project.
Thank you so much. We hope you enjoyed it.
Hope so too.